Over to you, Vassos.
Our next guest has dodged a bit of a bullet, which means, slightly disappointingly, we're not about to speak to Blunty McBluntface. The 20th anniversary edition of his album Back To Bedlam is out now and back in the top 10. So please welcome someone not quite in front, but in the hunt and still, James Blunt.
Yeah! Lots of hunty rhyming slang there. Good morning, James. How are you?
Hey, I'm very well, Chris. How are you doing?
All right, mixed emotions. Is it congratulations or commiserations? I don't quite know.
No, we've had a proper party as a result. I mean, to be back in after 20 years of an album and to be back in the top 10 is just a thrill and such a relief not to have to change my name.
Right, so it's the perfect scenario then. So you're back in the top 10 with this album, but it didn't get to number one, which is sort of what you wanted.
No, I think it would have been a terrible thing. No, my children were in a panic. My wife was going to change her name back to her maiden name. And so, yeah, anything under number one is great.
All right, so for people who are late to this party, what was the scenario going into the re-release of Back to Bedlam?
I just stupidly said if it went to number one, I would change my name to whatever the public voted. And in their wisdom, the public voted Blunty McBluntface. You wouldn't expect anything less, would you?
Yeah. But I mean, what other names were close to being in the running?
Yeah, I mean, Divock originally would have been a good one. I would have liked that as well. Jimmy Spliff was there. My children, the only one that my children enjoyed was Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Pop Style Fool called Song Machine, which would have been tricky on any kind of forms, I suppose, wouldn't it?
I thought that was great. I thought that was my favourite. I could never remember what it was though precisely. So thank you for reminding me of it.
But yeah, no, it was a great fun week, but a huge relief.
Did you know that Back to Bedlam has been in the top 10 for 131 weeks? Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No, I mean it was an amazing time. It really was. You couldn't get rid of me.
Okay, how good did it get? How bad did it get, James?
Oh, it's been, and it continues to be so much fun, as you know. I mean, it's just such a fantastic job to be in. And that highlight was just an absolute madness. My first album, I toured for 2.5 years, literally, living with my band and my crew, touring the world. We had an absolute blast. And as I say, we're still in the tour bus, we're still going, and we're still having an amazing time. So I think we're very lucky.
Yeah, and people have never loved you. I don't think they've ever loved you more. Thank you for the gig in the Garden last year, and thank you for the gig in the Garden next year. Because
next year, exactly.
Yeah, it's not so much one more song; it's one more year. Let's just do the whole. What's the perfect encore? Another whole gig. Thank you, James. I really appreciate that.
It's such a pleasure.
And you and your gang, you clearly get on like a house on fire. We're talking about squid earlier on. Amateur cooks when they're cooking squid. It's good if they flash fry it. If they leave it in a bit too long, it's bad. But if you carry on with it, it just comes good again. Show business is not dissimilar.
Exactly. Someone's just around for long enough, you just get used to them.
So I mean, what is it like now compared to how it was? You've never ever had an ounce of sort of, I don't know, what would you call it? Resentment. Why would you? Of course, but some people do. You've always totally loved it. You've always totally embraced it because you were in the army and because you're facing life and death on a daily basis, and you really were. I know you wear that very lightly on your sleeve, but that is true. Did that mean that when you were in show business, even though you love your music and you do it to the best of your ability, and you take your fans, you cherish your fans, because of what your former job, has it always been not a bit silly, but like, can you're just not allowed to ever take it seriously?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny talking about that, the highs and the lows, because of course I've had, I've had my highs, I've had my backlashes too, and you ask what sees you through it, and of course I've always had friends and family, but at the end of it, actually, I've had a mad bunch of people who have continued to turn up to concerts now for 20 years. Yeah. And I don't call them fans, I don't call them fans because that sounds fanatical. I really see them as great supporters. And when it's been an unpopular thing to say, I go to a James Blunt concert, those people have continued to come in their thousands. And so I've never really said a proper thank you to them. I think I've been very fortunate to have those people who've stuck by me.
And so that's what this is in a way, isn't it? Back to Bedlam begins 11th of February 2025 in Belfast, jamesblunt.com. So it's the whole album all the way through. Any sort of gilding either side of that?
Well, I mean, I suppose the foolish thing I did 20 years ago, is I wrote some songs that were incredibly high. And so yeah, we're going to be touring Back to Bedlam, and I'm going to be squeaking to try and reach the high notes on these songs that I haven't played, some of them for 20 years. So I think I'm just going to be handing over to the audience, get them to sing it.
You know, you can go down.
If we can get through it that way.
You know, you can go down a key or two if you want to. That is allowed.
Elton sings some songs in some different ways as well, doesn't it? Maybe I could get some backing singers.
Elton, I love it. Come on. All right, so the fans are good. I know for a fact, because of conversations we've been having about other things, that you are touring around the world. Are you Japanning next year? Is that going to happen or not?
I've got a little break just to celebrate the album coming out. So I'm in Ibiza now. It's the middle of the night, as you know, in Ibiza here. Because it's 10 a.m. is the middle of the night. Everyone is asleep. And then I'm heading off to Australia, Asia, and China for the rest of the tour this year, before I kick back into the UK in February.
Right. So the fans, the ticket sales are going as well as ever, and. Are you finding new fans or fans who have found a love for you and a connection again, rekindled? They've got time on their hands again. I don't know. How does it work? What do you sense is going on out there, James Blunt?
Well, it's really weird, Chris Evans. I have a really weird audience of people who have obviously been with me for 20 years, but then I suppose their kids are turning up too now, and I suppose they probably don't like the songs. They just were forced to listen to them by their parents on long car journeys when it was in there for over 100 weeks. So they may, as I say, not like it, but they know all the words, and they're now ticket buying age, so they're turning up. And then also, I've had, things like my online presence. I've got a whole load of blokes who are turning up on things like stag do's and hen do's for girls. All the blokes buy the girls' merchandise. They look like crop tops on them, and they stand on the chairs singing Wise Men. And they're just a wonderful part of the concert. You think, what on earth are they doing there?
I think it's because you've always smiled and you've never taken yourself seriously, or at least that's not how it's ever seemed.
So they're all welcome. And then I've had a couple of hits with some DJs in through Europe. So we kind of a weird dance crowd as well. It's just a really odd mix. You've got to come and see it.
Yeah, and also because I'm a testament to this, I've seen you a few times, more than a few times now, maybe double digits. But it is for the kids whose mum and dad may love you, and they're dragged along or they happen to be there or whatever, then this guy comes on and they've been hearing his songs at home or in the car or wherever that may have been the case, and then Mad Uncle James takes to the stage and they go, oh, he seems a bit of fun. Has it always been like that? Did you always piano surf?
Yeah, I mean, I realized very early on that with these droll songs, you've got to do something to liven it up a little bit. I mean, I suppose in time you kind of, 20 years in, you learn a little bit of stagecraft. And actually, I suppose I'm famous for a couple of quite slow, serious songs.
Right.
But I as you know, my band, I've always said that they are the rock stars I always wanted to be. It's a rock concert, just with a guy with a high pitched voice in the middle. But we have, it's a proper little rock concert going on.
It's so much fun. It is literally all the fun. Tell us about.
And as you know, crowd surfing just goes hand in hand with my type of music.
Yeah, of course it does. When you talk about stagecraft, that's because there's a lot of truth said in mirth. That just jumped out at me then when you said that. So when did you realise your first essence of stagecraft?
Well, yeah, I think, if you go to other concerts and you start seeing what other people are doing and slowly take a few things. I was here in Ibiza. I saw Carl Cox get the whole audience down in Space, when Space was a nightclub that still existed. And he got everyone down to crouch down. And then he, it slowly builds up the track and whacks the filter of Back to Clear. And suddenly everyone's jumping. And you thought, you know what? I'll have a bit of Carl Cox.
I'll have a bit of that.
So you just rob it from different people.
Yeah, of course you do. And when was the first time you did that? And how did it go? And you thought, oh, yes, please. Thank you very much indeed. I'll have even more of that.
That's absolutely a highlight of my concert. I do in a song called OK, and the audience just, and they absolutely go mad. I mean, crowd surfing is something I'd never actually, that's the one thing I didn't learn from someone else. I just, I knew of it. I'd never seen anyone do it properly. And so the first time I did it was in Barcelona, and I ran towards the audience and I jumped. And the first six row of girls just parted like Moses and the Red Sea, and I impaled on the floor.
Oh no!
And all my friends thought, what an idiot. So I've really had to learn and inspire. Because I've broken my finger doing it, and I've had to really work out how to kind of summon the audience together so they don't drop me.
Did you always want to live in Ibiza?
I did, yeah. In fact, actually, what I said as a young man is I said I'm going to be a musician and I'm going to live in Ibiza. I said the two hand in hand.
Wow.
And it's the first thing I did when that album hit. Is I went and bought a house out here, and I've hidden away here ever since.
Right, same house.
Same house.
Good for you. Good for you. Why the heck not, James? That is so cool. We've been talking about slides because our brand new sponsor from today is the actual National Lottery. That's the big thing. That's the £30 million a week to good causes, £16.9 billion.
Amazing. I actually did a National Lottery advert once.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think they were just using unpopular people to advertise the National Lottery. So I was with Piers Morgan and myself.
Oh no, I remember those ads. They were, but again, everybody that was in those ads meant that they could laugh at themselves. So the irony was that people loved them anyway. Oh my gosh.
Yes,
anyway, we're talking about slide action. So if you win Set for Life tonight, it's £10,000 a month for 30 years. Vassos says that would take the pressure off. I personally think that would end the pressure, but in his world, his highfalutin, high-flying world, that would take the pressure off. We're saying one should buy a slide from the bedroom to your new pool downstairs. One's new pool downstairs. Do you have a slide in your house in Ibiza?
I don't. I mean, I do have children, so I have a slide outside in the garden. I don't use it myself very often, and it doesn't quite reach the pool now. So, so I could do one.
Okay, well, hopefully the next tour will pay for one.
And the money too. Then I would stop touring, and it'd be great. So I'm in.
Okay, he's in. £1.50 ticket tonight, James. JamesBlunt.com. Back to Bedlam begins 11th of Feb 2025 in Belfast. Tickets available via JamesBlunt.com. Can we have a round of applause for James Blunt, almost Blunty McBluntface, but definitely live from Ibiza McIbizaface. Yes, thank you, James.
Lovely to speak to you.